Have you ever felt a place was wrong? A place where the air is heavy, the silence is too loud, and every shadow seems to watch you. Deep within Ukraine's Carpathian Mountains, there's a place locals call Chorny Lis, the Black Forest. Even in broad daylight, the dense canopy of ancient, twisted pines casts the ground in a perpetual twilight. The moonlight struggles to pierce the darkness, leaving the forest floor a maze of inky shadows. It feels cold here, always, a deep, bone-chilling cold that has nothing to do with the weather. For centuries, the villagers in the nearby valleys have passed down a warning, a stark and simple rule for anyone brave or foolish enough to venture near the forest's edge. Never, ever walk there at night. This isn't a caution against the usual dangers of the wilderness. They don't warn you about wolves or bears. They don't warn you about getting lost in the impenetrable darkness. They warn you about her. The woman in black. The legend is as old and as sorrowful as the mountains themselves. It begins with a young mother, a woman who lived in a small hamlet on the forest fringe. She had a little boy, her only child, the light of her life. One winter, a blizzard descended upon the mountains, a storm so fierce it was said the sky itself had frozen and was falling in sharp, white shards. In the chaos of the storm, her son wandered away from their cottage, drawn by some unknown call into the woods. When she realized he was gone, panic set in. She plunged into the raging blizzard, into the black forest, calling his name until her voice was raw. For days, she searched, battling the howling wind and the deepening snow. She pushed through drifts that rose to her waist, her hands raw and bleeding from clawing at frozen branches. She listened, desperately, for any sound beyond the storm's fury, a cry, a whimper, anything, but the forest answered only with the shriek of the wind. Days later, when the storm finally broke, a search party from the village went looking for them. They found her deep within the trees, in a small, unnatural clearing. She was kneeling in the snow, her body frozen solid. Her arms were outstretched, cradled in a hauntingly familiar way, as if she were holding the baby that was no longer there. Her face, etched with a grief so profound it seemed to have frozen time itself, was turned towards the path, as if she was still waiting for her child to return. They say her body was cold, but her sorrow burned, it never died. It seeped into the soil, into the roots of the trees, and became a permanent part of the Black Forest. Now, her spirit remains, tethered to the place of her greatest pain. Over the years, hikers and travelers who've ignored the local warnings have returned with chilling stories. They speak of seeing a tall, slender figure drifting silently between the pines. Her dress, they say, is a tattered black, whipping in a wind that no one else can feel. Her long, dark hair is a tangled mess, and her skin is as pale as freshly fallen snow. Some who have seen her swear she leaves no footprints, gliding over the moss and fallen leaves as if she were made of mist. Others say she moves without making a single sound, a phantom in the gloom. But every account, every terrified whisper from those who have encountered her, agrees on one chilling detail. She always asks the same question. Her voice is soft at first, a faint sound like the rustling of leaves, almost lost in the silence of the woods. She will appear before you, her eyes empty voids of sorrow, and she will ask, "Did you hear my child crying?" How you answer determines your fate. The legend is very specific about this. Those few who, in their confusion and fear, answered yes, perhaps hoping to offer some comfort to the grieving spirit, tell a harrowing tale. They say her head snaps up, her empty eyes locking onto theirs. She begins to follow them. At first, she keeps her distance, a dark shape always at the edge of their vision, but as they try to flee, her pace quickens. Her silent glide is replaced by audible footsteps, a sound like dry branches breaking, echoing behind them, getting closer and closer. They speak of a desperate, panic run through the dark, a race against a relentless pursuer that doesn't tire and doesn't stop. They are the lucky ones, the ones who somehow found their way out of the forest, their minds scarred by the chase. But what about those who answer no? those who truthfully say they haven't heard a child's cry. They are never seen again. Search parties sent to find them discover a disturbing scene. They find a single set of footprints leading deep into the woods. The prints show a person walking, then breaking into a run. The stride lengthens, the impressions deepen, clear signs of terror, and then they just stop, abruptly. In the middle of an open patch of snow or soft earth, the footprints simply end. There are no other tracks, no signs of a struggle. It's as if the person was lifted straight up into the air, plucked from the ground by an unseen force. Nothing is ever found of them again. They simply vanish from the face of the earth. The locals, the ones who have lived with this story for generations, will tell you there is only one way to survive an encounter with the woman in black. It is the most difficult thing to do when faced with such an apparition. You must say nothing, not a word. Do not answer her question. Do not speak. Do not whisper. Do not even gasp in terror. You must hold your breath, stay perfectly still, and pray she doesn't notice you. You must become as silent and as invisible as the shadows themselves. Because if she hears your voice, if she registers your presence, she will believe you are the child she lost. Her endless, desperate search will finally have a target. And in the dark, suffocating depths of the Black Forest, a place that holds her eternal grief, she always finds what she's looking for. So, if you ever find yourself walking in a forest that feels older and darker than it should, and you hear a soft, sorrowful voice ask you a question, remember the story. Remember the footprints that stop for no reason. Remember that your silence is your only shield. Don't answer. Don't run. Just hold your breath and hope she passes you by. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy diving into the world's darkest legends, make sure to subscribe for more. Stay safe out there.